Welcome to the Dice Tower! Alright, I'm Tom Bassel, and this is my co-host, Holly. Welcome to the show. We're glad you're here. But here we are at the end of my top 100 games, numbers 1, 2, and 3. These are my favorite games, and really it was a hard struggle for me sometimes to pick which one's my favorite, because even 2 and 3 came really close this year. So, without talking too much more, I don't want to spend too much time, and we even panned back a bit here because these games are bigger. At least one of them is, and that's the first one. Number 3 is, in this case, and in this case, and in this one. As you can see, this is Heroscape in these 3 big plastic bins. Heroscape is a very fun game, takes up a lot of room, more room actually than any other game I own. Alright, let's look and see what's inside these cases. In the first one here is all my characters. They're in little labeled boxes, and I also have the character cards in here too, so you can see what characters are which. But really, these characters, what I like about Heroscape is that it's a miniatures game. And oops, can you see, Holly? Holly, look, there you go. This, I like it because it's a miniatures game, but it's miniatures from all over the world and all over time itself. Ugh. These miniatures, you can have Roman legionnaires against samurai ninjas, against archers, against the Incredible Hulk, against Spider-Man, against robots from the future, and all that fighting on some really nice three-dimensional terrain. See, the terrain comes in different shapes and sizes, made up of hexes. And these terrains can stack on one another very easily, which allows you to make mountains and hills and such. But they also slide next to each other like this, and it really fits together well, and it's really innovative. The fact that you can make all kinds of terrain, and I can set up huge, giant setups. From the starter sets come with a lot of terrain. There's expansions that come with snow and ice, and more than that. There's really just a ton in the game. I mean, literally, there is castle walls, there's volcanoes, there's water. There really is a ton of stuff in this game. And now some of you might be having a heart attack because I just threw game pieces all over the place, but this stuff is durable. This is really good quality. I mean, I could drop this off the roof of my house and not worry about it. My kids play with it, and I don't have a problem with it. And there's just so much stuff. The disadvantage of the game possibly could be that it takes a long time to play, or at least a long time to set up. But it's fantastic. The visual effects, even though the game is fairly simplistic, there's a huge variety amongst all the different characters, and I just love it. Heroscape is a fantastic game. I was glad that for a while, at least, it was in the stores, and so here you go, Heroscape. All right, let's get this up off the table, Holly. Gotta admit, that's kind of fun. Anyway, so Heroscape's number 3. Number 2, a game that's not quite so big, but it's still a pretty big one. Yeah. Descent. Descent is a dungeon crawler game, and there's a lot of stuff in this game. In this box here, I have all the rule books. I know you want to see that. And all kinds of other stuff. Inside the large box, I have miniatures for the game. Here you can see the dragon. Here you can see a troll. Yeah, and here you can see I have all the different tiles for the game that let you make the floor-plan of the castle or the outdoors areas. And, well, oh, there's not in that box. And so that's in that box. And then I have a special card holder that holds all the tons of cards that come with the game. And I got 2 boxes full of all the counters. That's a lot of stuff. But I played the game enough. It's just a fantastic game. When Descent first came out, I thought it was a fun game. It's a dungeon crawler that took about 6 to 7 hours to play. Just fantastic. Some people control the adventurers. One person is the overlord. And you're basically fighting against each other, going through the dungeon, just having a lot of fun as you go through. But it was good, but it didn't do as well because of the just the fact that it was so long. But this expansion changed everything. This expansion is what made it go up to my number 2 game, and that's the Road to Legend. This took a big dungeon crawler game and spread it over 200 hours, which I said I would never play a game that took 200 hours. But this one does. It takes a really long time to play, but you can play it in 2-hour increments with different people. I have different people running the characters every time I play, and the game became so popular that I stopped bringing it to game events just so we could get something else played. And so Descent, as it is, just fantastic. You say, well, why not just play a role-playing game? Well, mostly because Descent has an actual set of rules which are very strict and followed to. That when you move on the squares, I don't have to measure distances. We don't have to figure out what do you do if someone tries something odd. I don't know why I like it, because it's very structured. It's structured, and yet the variety is amazing. We've been playing dozens and dozens of sessions, and every session feels different. They keep coming out with more expansions to add more variety and more interesting things. They're really, the Overlord doesn't have to feel like he's holding back. You can just pile drive the players, and it's a fair game. It's amazingly fun, tremendously addictive, and so my number 2 game of all time is Descent: Road to Legend. So there we go. What are we looking for now, Holly? Number 1! The number 1 game of all time, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is Duel of Ages. Now, woohoo, some of you are thinking, big surprise, we've listened to your podcast. We know that Duel of Ages is your favorite game. Well, it is. I have it. There's 8 parts of the games, the original game, and then 7 expansions after that. And I managed to fit them all in these boxes. This box here is basically just a terrain box with a really cool rule book, which I know you want to see, right? Yeah. And I like how the hexes, or these keys, these aren't the keys, these are the keys. The keys and then the platters, these are called, fit together. And you can form all kinds of terrain, an area to fight on. It looks like a war game, and it kind of is a war game. In this box, I have all the different counters for the different players, and I actually mounted them on top of white blocks so that you could see them easier on the board. And I actually got 2 sets of counters for that purpose. I have one for the white team and one for the black team. And then I have a deck. Basically, I have a box here full of cards, a few counters, and dice. And these cards are all the characters in the game. If you've never played Duel of Ages before, it's a fantastic experience. You are playing Buffalo Bill, Cody, Annie Oakley on one side. With them is a cyborg and a small fighting swordsman against some robot from the future, against some elf from the past, and there's just so many different characters, some from real history, some from fictional books, but some that are just made up for this game, and yet each of them reminds you of something that you may have seen in a book or a story somewhere. And there's all kinds of weapons. For example, here you can have the Navy pistol, or a Bengal tiger, or a friction field generator, or a German Shepherd, or a palm pulser, and all those weapons. So you can have someone riding a skateboard with a palm purser, fighting someone with a slingshot, and a chainsaw on the other hand. And while the game is combat-oriented, almost like a war game, there's also solving adventures, and just, it's amazing. Now, the component quality isn't as good as the last 2 games. Descent and Heroscape both have much better components. And in fact, because of that, they sometimes edge forward, almost taking the number 1 spot away from Duel of Ages. But I'll tell you, if I talk about a game that provides a story, it's this one. Some people say the game comes down to a whole bunch of dice rolls. Well, yeah, I guess it does. But man, it's just so entertaining to talk about the one time when Blackbeard was fighting Minx and Jinx, the twins, and Blackbeard had a sniper rifle, and they had a baseball bat, and they went after each other. Meanwhile, someone else went on a spaceship mission, and they fought each other, and another guy dug through the tunnels, and it's an amazing, fun game. Rumors are that someday a 2nd edition will be released. When that happens, maybe all happiness will come down. And this game really isn't for everybody. You know, Ticket to Ride, I'll say that game's for everybody. This one I won't. And yet, this is my personal favorite game, Duel of Ages, a fantastic game, and I'm really, it's one I will not ever get rid of. So that's it. Those are my top 100 games. I hope you've enjoyed the series. I hope you've enjoyed me having Holly here with me. And let me tell you a little bit. This is kind of the introduction to the show that I'm gonna basically start a video podcast at this point in time. They're gonna be short clips. I'm gonna talk about gaming. I'm gonna talk about helps the games. We're gonna talk about dice towers. We'll talk about dice. I'll talk about my top 200. But along with me, I will have one of these 3 co-hosts with me, or maybe more than one. Melody, my oldest daughter, Amy, number 2, and then Holly, you've seen her plenty of times, number 3. And we're really glad to have them on board. I hope you've enjoyed my top 100, but we're not done yet. Keep an eye out for more details. The website will have more information. More to come from the Vassal family. We'll see you next time.